Welcome back, everyone. So today I put together this video on the geometry of chess. The first part is going to be the essentials that even as an experienced player made me understand the importance of the center. So later I move on to tactical geometry, very practical, very useful for visualization. And later I cover the control of a space. So yeah, stick around, watch until the end, and let's start with this one. Weird things happen with the king. We are constantly going to look for the right triangle. We look for this pattern. So in this case, we can either go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 if we want to reach this square on the other side of the board, or we can also take another, which would appear a longer route. I can go this way, and it's going to be 7 moves as well. Or I can even go in a zigzag pattern, and it's going to be all the same, 7 moves. This is going to work all the same, even if I am not in the corner. So let's say I want to get to the other side of the board, then I go here and it's going to be 7 moves. Or I can also take a different route. Let's say I want to do this, and it's going to be 7 moves as well. This is going to be important because let's say that you're fighting for this pawn, and you don't want to do this. You don't want to go and then do this because it's all the same. No, you want to get as close to the other king as possible and get to this side of the board. My arrows are weird. So yeah, you might want to do this, and then you keep shouldering the king. He's never going to be able to get in to these squares because you are occupying that space. So the rule of the square, you don't have to calculate and say, oh, okay, if black goes here, then he goes here, and then I play this, then that is too slow. What you have to do is draw a square around the pawn like this, and then if you can get your king inside of this square, then you know you are on time to stop the pawn. So I'm gonna make the move just to show you here, and then the pawn moves. Now we draw a new square, right? Just to calculate again to show you example. And now we're gonna get inside of this square again, so we're on time. So the continuation is like this, and yeah, we're perfectly okay. In this one, I want you to visualize the right triangle, right? So in this position, it doesn't look like we can stop the pawn if we draw the square. No, that is square. This is square around the pawn, then we might not be on time. However, we have our own passed pawn, and we might be able to support it with our king. So now let's say that the king goes after your pawn. So what you do is just going after their pawn. That is one scenario. The second scenario is, let's say they ignore your pawn and they go, okay, I'm just going to promote. So now what you want to do is support your pawn. Support your pawn in promotion. If they keep ignoring you, you go and you promote your own queen, and this is an equal position. Anywhere in the center, the bishop is going to cover 13 squares. The bishop can be on d4, d5, e4, or e4. Let's say that we have the bishop pair placed in the center like so. Then that is going to cover 25 squares, which is 40% of the board. The knight offers very interesting features. So in this case, anywhere in this square, I'm gonna draw it out, the knight is going to cover 8 squares. So let me show you another example of this. So here, again, we have this square, and the knight is covering 8 squares, okay? This is why we prefer the bishop pair instead of the pair of knights. So in the best distribution, in the optimal distribution of the knights, we're going to cover 16 squares, which is 25% of the board. It doesn't compare to the 40% of the board in the optimal square of the bishops. In chess, we have many different pawn formations. In this one, we have five pawns covering 7 squares, and these 5 squares overlap, which makes it a strong structure. Now, if we arrange the pawns in a different way, I'm gonna pull it up. Let's say we have these 5 pawns. We're actually covering pretty much this diagonal. So this is 5 plus 4. We're covering 9 squares. So the first thing I would do if I was playing black is to try to attack the base of the pawn, the c2 square, as if once we tackle this one, the rest of the structure will crumble apart more easily. Moving on with the queen. Anywhere in the central squares, the queen will be covering 27 squares, which is 42% of the board. Finally, the rook. The rook is a simple guy. It's not a simple piece, but it doesn't matter where you put it. It's going to cover 14 squares. So I can show you here, this one as well, 14. This one 14 squares, even in the corner. So it doesn't matter where you put it. It's going to cover 14 squares all the time. Let's start with this section with the tactical geometry of chess. So first off, look out for opportunities where the opponent's pieces are 2 files apart, like in this case. Sometimes it can also be on the same file. So here you might be able to play e4, forking the 2 pieces with the pawn. Here you have the 2 pieces 1 square apart, the queen and the king, and the rook in combination with the bishop will be able to go for a double attack. So here the geometry of the board allows us to fork the 2 pieces with the rook by playing rook d5, forking these 2 knights that are 1 square apart. Same thing here. We have the queen and the king that are forkable by the knight. Skewers are also good opportunities when 2 pieces are 1 square apart. In this case, the queen and the king on the same file. So we can go for rook f1, and this will be a draw after we take the king takes back. Something weird is going to happen in diagonals when pieces are 1 square apart. So for example, here you have a different number of checks. You don't even have to go for a check. You can go like a queen f2 and it's still winning. Maybe you can give a fork here, forking these 2 pieces, but it doesn't work. I mean, you're not winning a piece. So the best move is to go queen g7, and now the geometry of the board doesn't allow this king to protect the rook. So yeah, once the king moves, you can take the rook and you're winning. So skewers in diagonals are even more effective. Let's put our knowledge to the test. So here you should be able to spot immediately these 2 pieces that are 1 square apart. However, you cannot just play immediately e5, because if you play e5, then white has this resource of taking the knight. Once you take, the bishop goes back and you didn't get any advantage. So what you have to do here is prepare the move. First you can play knight takes, you attract the queen, and now you fork the 2 pieces, the bishop and the queen. So as I was making this video, I played this game, and so black play queen h3, and I was like, okay, 2 squares apart, there has to be something here. So first I prepared the move f5, threatening to go knight f4, forking the 2 pieces, and my opponent moved the piece, but it's getting also this rook trap. So later my opponent blundered the queen, but yeah, it was like, oh, so easy to spot. We always want to look for misalignment of the pieces. This can be 2 pieces that are on the same diagonal. It can also be on the same file or on the same rank. So in this case, the queen and the bishop that are lined up in the same diagonal as the king, that can be targeted easily. So we can see this in different examples. In this one, we have the rook and the king on the same diagonal, and they're also 1 square apart. So yeah, you just give a check here and then you win the rook. So this can also be on the same file. For example, the queen and the bishop are lined up, are on the same line. So they can be easily targeted by the rook. Whenever you see 2 rooks on the same diagonal, the first thing to look for is try to attack them with the bishop, maybe with the queen too. Just always look for the alignment of the pieces. In this case, 2 bishops line on the same line. They can also be here, like line up like this. So in this case, we just play rook c4. And the best move in the position for black is gonna be to sack this pawn, to take this pawn, sacking the bishop. Once we take, this should be a draw with perfect play. Let's say bishop f5. We hit the bishop at the pawn, but they can just retreat. I'm gonna show you this one from the defender points of view. So sometimes we leave pieces on the same file or on the same rank. So in this one, white can give a check, and now once we take, we're losing. Once white takes, we're losing the queen. So here, I want you to pause the video and identify what is the problem. What is the problem in the position? So yeah, the problem is the king and the queen that are on the same rank. So now black can exploit it by playing rook a1. And yeah, there is no way to really save the game because you're gonna lose this queen. Also, don't leave your pieces on the same file. So here we have the problem of the knight and the king being on the same file. This can easily be targeted by the rook. So in this one, it's a little more subtle, but we can still see the problems in the position. So the queen is on the same diagonal as this queen, but this one is unprotected. Now white plays knight to d2. So what you have to do is open an attack on this queen by playing rook to e3. They cannot take back because you will be able to take back with the rook. Now the only move that saves the game or continues the game is to give up the queen, and now you can even give a check first. Once they take and all trades happen, you take the queen. Okay, the king has to move. You take the queen, and yeah, this is a winning position for black. So by now you should be able to identify the tactic we have here. You can pause the video now if you don't see it. It's white to move. So yeah, the move is bishop to b5. Bishop to b5 attacks the queen that is on the same diagonal as the king. And yeah, this is just completely losing for black. Let's go with the queen. And I actually want to take a step back and think about the king first. So we saw at the beginning of the video, if I want to travel to the other side of the board, a vertical path is not necessarily the fastest. Instead, you can go in a diagonal shape, and that will be is even more effective. So now we have a triangle shape with a king. You can also use these triangles whenever we use the queen. So here you have a triangle shape when we fork the rook and the king. Let's see more of this. Okay, I also want you to see in this one the right triangle, which is forming this pattern. So here we have a double attack on the rook and the king, and we still have this triangle shape. We're going to use exactly the same principle in a queen and king endgame. So some of the advice is you see an L, then you go to the beginning of this L, and then you give a check, and then you cut off the king on these two diagonals, right? So then the king moves, and then you're gonna start chasing. You see another L, so you put the king here, and then so you repeat, and then you chase the king away. But that is a little bit slow in this scenario because instead of chasing the king, you can cut off the diagonals by going queen to e6. So you're cutting this file and this diagonal, and now the king has to move, and it's going to run out of moves eventually. So here you want to coordinate the king and the queen to checkmate the king. So it's gonna be a mate in 6 from this position. So you want to go queen and king basically. So let's see how this works with more pieces on the board. So here white plays king e6, threatening to checkmate. So and black actually blunders mating 1. And the only escape square for the king, if it wasn't here, was this square, the d7. Now we have this maiden net forming a triangle shape with a queen. So yeah, you just go to the side of the board, and the king doesn't have any escape squares. Yeah, this is a puzzle. So here we always look for checks. Okay, we give a check and then another check. So, but this is when it is a little bit more difficult. So what do we do? Because we're about to get checkmated if we don't find the right move. So here you actually have to give up the rook. Once white takes, now you also find this right triangle on this side of the board. So you can give a check here to the king, and now you can capture this rook. So this is the perfect alignment of the pieces. By now, I hope you see the pattern immediately. So we draw this right triangle, and then we give a check. So yeah, and then we have another triangle, actually a skewer, with the queen that is in the same on the same file as the queen. So whenever you play, I want you to visualize this inner square, then the outer square, and then the line in the middle that mark the territory between the opponent and your own pieces. Now I will go through this game quickly just to show you the point, and notice how my pieces are always covering these 4 squares or failing to do that. I go with the outer rectangle. So now this was a Sicilian that shifted into a Caro-Kann. So I am familiar with both openings. Everything is fine. So here I'm trying to improve my pieces, improve my knight, and then I castle. Everything is fine. I trade queens. And now the minute or the second I see this knight jumping in, entering my territory, I will try to do my best to kick him out, or in failing that, just taking. Probably I can play here, kicking the knight, but he can do some shenanigans. So I was like, I'm just gonna trade, and also try to win this pawn. But later I see that there is no way I can defend this pawn, or okay, I can go knight a7, defending this pawn. But now I'm going to lose control of the center. So I don't want to do that. Instead, I go rook a8. If they take, yeah, I just take the pawn. So everything is fine. And now they blunder because I am attacking 3 times this square. And notice this is move, what is it? This is move 21. And that was the first time I crossed into the enemy's territory. So before that, I didn't have to do anything extraordinary. I kept my pieces on my side of the board, and yeah, life was good for me. Now, once they blunder, they also blunder another pawn, and then other pawn. They were running out of time. But yeah, whenever you think about the middle game, just think about how can I get my pieces to protect or to keep attacking these 4 squares, failing that the outer square, and then it's going to be much easier for you to play. And see how the other plan, the only plan they have is to attack the f7 pawn, but I am protecting it with my rook. So I really have no difficulty ending this endgame or finishing this endgame, not the best phrasing. So yeah, this one finished with an I think 93% of accuracy. And yeah, so just keep thinking about this division, these 4 squares, and it will be much easier for you. So to wrap up this video, we have seen a queen and king endgame, and we also saw a story with the king versus a pawn endgame. But this one is also interesting. So whenever you're playing against a knight, you know the knight has to change colors every time he jumps. So here is in a light square, it's gonna have to jump to a light square. So here what you can do is just restrict your bishop. Basically you're putting your bishop in front of the knight, and you're restricting all the pieces and all the moves the knight has. Most rook versus knight endgames are a draw. However, in this one we have a winning position, and the rule we have to learn here is the diagonal oppositional rule, which is you have 1 square apart in diagonal shape. So here you're restricting the knight from coming into the center and jumping here. Maybe it can go back to d8, but yeah, it cannot be helped. And now, after a few moves, you also want to bring your king to try to win this knight. And weirdly, I was checking with the computer, one of the best moves is to go h2. So that was kind of strange. And now you play again the diagonal oppositional rule. You see 1 square in between, so now you play this rook c5, which restricts the knight from jumping in. And now, yeah, just slowly but surely bring your king. Don't fork. Don't blunder a fork. And yeah, this also this king is too far apart, and is a winning position for white. Okay, I hope you like this one. I put a lot of effort into it. Please comment, like, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Take care.